Beneath the twin moons of Zyra 7, the desert stretched endlessly silver dunes rolling like frozen waves under a sky thick with stars. Lily Carter stood alone at the edge of a vast crater, her boots sinking slightly into the warm dust. She had not asked for this mission. She was only a botanist sent to catalog alien plant life on a routine survey for the United Earth Science Corps. Nothing more than a quiet woman who preferred soil to speeches and roots to rockets. But everything changed. 3 nights ago, when the sky split open, it began with a low hum not heard with ears but felt in the bones. Then the air shimmered like heat over pavement, and a ship descended not with fire or noise but with grace. Like a leaf falling to water, it was unlike anything human engineers had ever designed. Smooth obsidian curves that seemed to swallow light. Whole veins of soft violet pulsed along its surface. Breathing like a living thing, Lily had frozen. Then turned to run, but a voice stopped her, not from outside but from within her own mind. Calm, still, do not fear, we have waited for. Days later she stood before the ship again, heart-pounding hands clenched at her sides. The entrance hissed open, revealing a corridor lined with glowing moss that climbed the walls in spirals, pulsing gently like a slow heartbeat. She stepped inside, and the air grew thick with the scent of rain and something sweet. Like night-blooming jasmine, cool and calming, at the center of the main chamber floated a figure, tall, slender, with skin like polished amber and eyes that held swirling galaxies within them. Her hair drifted as if underwater, long strands shimmering with bioluminescent threads. She wore no armor, only a flowing robe that shifted colors with her breath. Lily recognized her instantly from the fragmented, hollow images beamed to Earth before contact was lost. The Zyran Princess Vela, heir to the silent throne of a dying empire. You came, Lily whispered, more to steady herself than to speak. I knew you would, Vela, replied her voice, smooth as riverstone yet warm as sunlight. It carried no threat, only certainty. Why me, Lily asked, her voice shaking. You could have chosen anyone from the fleet. Dozens of scientists, soldiers, diplomats. Even the ambassador was trained for this. Vela drifted closer, her bare feet never touching the floor. You think this is about skill or rank or usefulness? She tilted her head slightly, a faint smile playing on her lips. No. This is about resonance. Resonance. Lily repeated the word, unfamiliar, yet somehow right. Long before your species reached the stars, long before your world knew it was not alone. Our seers watched. They listened. They waited for the one whose soul hummed in the same frequency as ours. Yours began singing when you were 6 years old. Lily blinked, confused. I was just a kid playing in the garden back in Arizona. You touched a dying sunflower and wished it to live, Vela said softly. And it did. You did not notice. But we did. Your compassion, your quiet strength, your refusal to look away from pain that is rare even among kind species. Lily swallowed hard, tears pricking her eyes. She remembered that day clearly. The wilted flower in her backyard. How she had watered it every morning, whispering silly things like please stay with me, and somehow against all odds it had bloomed again, bright and golden. She had never told anyone, thinking it was just luck or good soil. But why now, she asked. Because the silence is ending. Vela turned her gaze toward the ceiling where constellations swirled in real time, forming and dissolving like breath on glass. The great rift is opening and darkness stirs beyond it, not a force of war but of forgetting it. Erases memory, identity, connection. It turns civilizations into hollow shells, walking through life without joy, without sorrow, without love. And only those who carry true empathy can stand against it. Lily felt a chill crawl up her spine. So you need me as some kind of weapon? Novela faced her, again eyes soft but intense. We need you as a bridge. You will not fight with guns or ships. You will remind others what it means to care, to hope, to remember love. Even when the void whispers otherwise. Lily looked down at her hands, rough from fieldwork, nails chipped from digging in alien soil. She was no hero. She had never fired a weapon, never led a team, never even spoken at a conference without stuttering. She spent most of her days alone in greenhouses or kneeling in dirt, whispering to seedlings. I'm just a botanist, she said quietly. And that is why you are perfect. Vela stepped forward finally. Her feet touched the ground. She reached out and gently took Lily's hand. Her skin was warm, not cold as Lily had expected, and her touch sent a quiet, Calm through Lily's nerves, you see life where others see dirt. You nurture what others discard, you believe in second chances. Lily's breath caught in her throat. She had spent her whole life feeling small, unnoticed, useful only in the background. But here in this strange ship under alien stars, someone saw her not for what she lacked, but for what she carried inside, a quiet fire of care that never burned out. "What do I have to do?" she asked. "First you must accept the bond." Vela said, "The Ziran way is not to command but to connect. If you agree, your mind will open to ours, not fully but enough to share thoughts, feelings, memories. It will not hurt, but it will change." Eulalie hesitated, fear and wonder warring inside her, but then she thought of Earth, her mother tending roses on their porch, her little brother laughing as he chased fireflies, the way her students lit up when a seed sprouted in their classroom pots. She thought of all the quiet moments that made life worth living, the small acts of kindness that no one recorded but everyone felt. "Yes," she said. Vela nodded and placed her other hand on Lily's forehead. A soft light bloomed between them, not blinding but gentle like dawn. Spilling over hills, images flooded Lily's mind, vast forests of crystal singing trees, oceans that glowed with sentient plankton, cities built inside living mountains, and then pain, the slow fading of a people who once danced under 3 suns, now whispering lullabies to keep their memories alive. Lily gasped, tears streaming freely now. She understood the weight of what was asked of her. It was not glory, it was grief. It was love in the face of loss. "You are not alone," Vela whispered through the bond. "We walk with you." When the light faded, Lily felt different, not stronger in body but deeper in spirit, as if roots had grown inside her, connecting her to something vast and ancient and kind. She could still feel the desert wind, the grit on her skin, but now she also felt the pulse of the ship, the sorrow of the Ziran people, the fragile hope in Vela's heart. They left the ship together, stepping onto the silver sands, the twin moons casting long shadows behind them. In the distance, the human camp flickered with emergency lights, the crew searching for her worried sick. "They will not understand," Vela said. "Maybe not," Lily replied. "But I will help them try," as they walked toward the camp. Lily felt the first stirrings of purpose, not the loud kind shouted from podiums, but the quiet kind that grows in the dark like seeds waiting for rain. She was no longer just Lily Carter, botanist. She was the chosen one, not because she was special, but because she had never stopped believing in the power of small kindnesses. And somewhere far, beyond the stars, the great rift trembled, sensing a new light rising, one that did not burn but bloomed. Weeks passed, and the silence that once ruled Zira 7 gave way to a new rhythm, not of machines or commands, but of shared mornings, shared meals, shared stories. Lily no longer wore her Earth uniform every day. Sometimes she walked barefoot through the red grass, her sleeves rolled up, her hands stained with soil, planting seeds brought from home beside Ziran saplings that glowed faintly in the dusk. The humans and Ziran worked side by side, not as allies forced by crisis, but as neighbors learning each other's names the way one learns the shape of a favorite stone or the sound of rain on a tin roof. Vela spent more time on the surface. Now, her floating grace softened into grounded steps. She sat with the cooks, learning how to stir earth stews with wooden spoons. She listened as old engineer Ramos told tales of fixing engines with duct tape, and hoped. She even tried to braid Lily's hair once, her long fingers fumbling with human strands, until they both laughed, the sound light and unexpected like wind chimes in a quiet room. But peace was fragile deep in the outer colonies. Whispers returned, not of the rift this time, but of something else. Ships with no flags, no signals, moving like ghosts through the dark. They did not attack. They watched and waited. Earth Command grew nervous again, sending urgent messages demanding answers. Lily read them in the dim light of her tent, her heart heavy. They feared what they did not understand, and fear made them want to strike first. Went to Vela, who stood at the edge of the crystal forest where the trees hummed low songs of warning. "They think you sent those ships," Lily said. Vela did not turn her eyes on the horizon where stars blinked like distant eyes. "Those are not ours," she said. "They belong to the Hollow Ones. The Hollow Ones, those who fell to the rift but did not fade completely." Vela explained. "Their minds are empty. Their bodies still move, their ships still fly. But they have no memory, no name, no why they drift, seeking connection but only spreading emptiness like a sickness." Lily felt a chill, not of fear but of sorrow. What can we do? We show them what they lost. Vela turned to her eyes deep with resolve. Not with force, but with truth. The next day, Lily called. A meeting not just with her crew, but with every human on Zero 7, including the new arrivals sent by Earth Command. Young soldiers with stiff backs and sharper eyes. They stood apart. Arms crossed. Faces closed. Lily did not lecture. She did not plead. She simply asked everyone to bring one object that meant something to them. A photo, a toy, a locket, a worn book, a child's drawing, in the center of camp. They laid them out on a long cloth under the twin suns. Then, one by one, they spoke not of strategy, but of love, of loss, of small moments that made life worth living. The young soldier named Tina held up a chipped coffee mug. My dad gave it to me before I left. He said, drink something warm every morning. So you remember someone cares. An older medic showed a faded bracelet. My wife made it from hospital tape while I was recovering. She said it will remind you to come back. Lily placed a dried sunflower on the cloth. The one from her childhood. It reminded me that even broken things can bloom again. Vela stepped forward then and placed a small glowing stone in the center. It pulsed softly with inner light. This is a memory seed. She said it holds the first song my people ever sang. The hollow ships appeared on the horizon that evening, 3 of them, dark and silent, hovering like vultures over the desert. Earth Command screamed over comms, open fire. They are hostile, but Hale held up his hand. Wait. Lily stood at the edge of camp, alone. No weapon, no shield. Just the sunflower in her hand and the memory stone at her feet. She closed her eyes and reached, not with fear but with feeling. She let the bond with Vela open wide and poured into it every story, every tear, every laugh from the circle of objects behind her. The air shimmered. The memory stone glowed brighter, then brighter still until light spilled from it, not harsh but warm like candlelight, spreading across the sand, climbing into the sky, wrapping around the hollow ships like a gentle hand inside. Those ships' empty eyes blinked. A man, in a tattered uniform, stared at his own hands as if seeing them for the first time. A woman touched the wall of her cockpit and whispered, "My daughter's name." Memories returned, not all at once, but like rain after drought, slow, then steady faces. Names, birthdays, lullabies, recipes, promises. One by one, the hollow ships powered down, not in surrender, but in relief, on the ground. The humans watched in silence as figures emerged from the ships. Not monsters, not enemies, but lost people. Thin, pale, confused but alive, their eyes filling with tears as they saw the circle of objects. The faces waiting, not with guns, but with open arms. Tina. The young soldier ran forward and hugged a woman who looked like her older sister. They did not speak. They just held each other, shaking. Vela stood beside Lily, her hand finding Lily's without a word. You did it. Lily whispered, we did it. Vela corrected gently. It was never one person. It was all of us remembering together, in the days that followed the camp, grew larger, not with tension but with healing. The hollow ones were not prisoners, they were guests given food, warm beds and time. The Zyran taught them to listen to the singing trees, the humans taught them to bake bread. With real butter laughter, returned to voices that had been silent for years. Earth Command remained wary, but even they could not deny the change they saw in the daily reports, not of battles won, but of lives reclaimed. Lily continued her work in the fields. But now she was not alone. Children from both species followed her, learning how to plant, how to wait, how to care for something smaller than themselves. She showed them how a single seed held a whole forest inside it, if only you gave it time and trust. One evening, as the twin moons rose, Lily sat with Vela on a dune overlooking the camp below. Lights glowed from tents and huts. Voices carried on the wind. Music mixed with alien hums and human whistles. Do you think it will last? Lily asked. Vela watched a child run past holding hands with a Zyran elder, their steps uneven but together. As long as we keep choosing to see each other not as strange but as familiar, as long as we keep sharing our stories. Yes, Lily leaned her head on Vela's shoulder, not as a human with an alien, but as one friend with another. Far away on Earth, cities lit up not just with electricity, but with kindness. Neighbors checked on each other. Strangers shared food parks filled with people talking, not scrolling. Schools taught not just facts but how to listen. How to care the rift had not been destroyed, it still lingered at the edges of space, but it could not grow where connection took root. It starved in the presence of shared joy, shared pain, shared sunflowers. Back on, Zyra-7 Lily walked to the edge of the crater where it all began. She knelt and planted a new seed, not from Earth, not from Zira, but a hybrid they had grown together. Its leaves shimmered silver. Its stem pulsed faintly with violet light. Vela stood behind her watching. "What will you call it?" Lily asked. "The Hope Flower." Vela said simply. Lily smiled and patted the soil gently, then stood. They turned and walked back toward the camp where lights glowed and voices rose in song. Not perfect, not loud but real and together. And in that moment, under alien stars, 2 women, 1 human, 1 Zyran, knew that the future was not written in steel or fire, but in the quiet courage to care. The human camp buzzed with tension when Lily returned, lights flashing, radios crackling, voices sharp with worry. Commander Hale met her at the perimeter, his face tight with anger and relief. "Where have you been, Carter? You vanished for 3 days. We were about to call in a rescue fleet." Lily stood straighter than usual, her eyes calm, her voice steady. "I was with them." "With who?" "The Ziran princess." Hale scoffed, glancing at the empty desert behind her. "There is no ship, no signal, nothing but sand. And Starset is cloaked," Lily said simply. "And she is real." Hale studied her closely, then frowned. "You sound different." "I feel different," she replied, "but I am still. Me, just more aware." Back in her tent, Lily sat on her cot and opened her journal, not to log plant samples, but to write what she had seen: the singing trees of Zira, the memory rivers that flowed through their cities, the way their children learned history by touching ancient stones that hummed with ancestral voices. She wrote about Vela's sorrow, not loud or dramatic, but deep, like a well that never ran dry yet still gave water to all who asked. The next morning, Lily requested a meeting with the science team. They gathered in the mess hall, skeptical, tired eyes on her as she stood before them. No slides, no datapads, just her voice. "They are not here to conquer," she began. "They are here because they are afraid, not of us, but for us at DR." Ellis snorted. "Fear does not bring silent ships and vanished signals. It brings quiet warnings," Lily said. "The Zyran have watched us for centuries. They saw our wars, our kindness, our art, our cruelty. They waited for someone who could hear their message, not with ears, but with the heart. You expect us to believe an alien princess chose you a botanist over generals and diplomats," one scientist muttered. "Because I listen," Lily said simply. "And I remember." That afternoon, Lily walked to the edge of the camp where the red grass of Zira-7 grew in sparse patches. She knelt and touched the soil. It was dry, but alive beneath her fingers. She closed her eyes and reached, not with her hands, but with the bond Vela had given her. A soft hum answered her, not words, but feeling, warmth, concern. "Patience, are they? Ready?" Vela's thought came like a breeze. "Not yet," Lily thought back. "But they are listening." Days passed, and Lily changed the way she moved through the camp. She no longer hurried past people. She paused, asked how they slept, if they missed home. She shared her rations with the night watch, who looked exhausted. She sat with the young comms officer who cried quietly after a call from Earth went silent. She did not offer solutions, only presence. Slowly, the crew began to notice something had shifted in her. Not arrogance, but calm. A quiet strength that did not demand attention but drew it gently like a candle in the dark. Meanwhile, high above the planet, Vela watched through the ship's living eye. She saw Lily's small acts of care ripple through the human camp. Like water through cracked earth, one by one, the humans softened their voices, lowered their guards, stopped treating each other like tools, and started seeing faces, named stories. But time was running out. On the far edge of known space, the great rift widened, not with sound, but with absence. Planets that once sang with life now broadcast only static colonies that sent cheerful messages. One day fell silent, the next. No distress calls, no explosions. Just emptiness, as if everyone had simply forgotten how to be Earth Command. Grew frantic. They sent orders to the Zyra-7 team: prepare for evacuation. Possible hostile contact assumed. Hale called Lily into his office, his face grim. "We are pulling out in 48 hours. Pack your samples and personal items. You cannot. Leave, Lily said. We have no choice. Intel says the rift is spreading fast and whatever is causing it might be headed this way. It is not a weapon. It is a forgetting. Lily insisted. If you leave now, you take that fear back to Earth and it will spread, faster than any ship. Hale rubbed his temples. Carter, I like you, but you are asking me to ignore protocol based on feelings from an alien who may not even exist. She exists and she is right, Lily said. Look at us. We are already afraid. We are already pulling away from each other. That is how it starts. Hale fell silent, then looked at her, not as a subordinate, but as a person. Tell me what you know. So Lily told him everything. The bond, the memories, the truth about the rift, not as a force, but as a disease of the soul that fed on isolation and doubt. She spoke of how the Ziran fought it, not with shields, but with stories, with shared meals, with songs sung in the dark. When she finished, Hale sat back in his chair for a long moment, then nodded. All right, we stay, but only for 72 hours. If nothing changes, we got. That night, Lily returned to the desert alone, the twin moons high above. She closed her eyes and reached out again. This time, not just with thought, but with song. She hummed a lullaby her mother used to sing, soft and wordless. From the sky a light answered, not bright but steady. The obsidian ship descended silently, landing a few yards away. Vela stepped out, no longer floating but walking like a human, her robe shimmering faintly in the moonlight. You called, Vela said. They are still afraid, Lily replied, but they are trying. That is enough for now. Vela held out her hand. Come, I will show you how we remember. Lily took her hand, and the world dissolved not into darkness, but into light, thousands of threads of memory glowing like fireflies, each one a life, a moment, a love. Vela guided her through the web, showing how the Ziran wove their history, not in books but in living patterns, in the way they planted gardens, in spirals that mirrored star maps, in the dances they performed at dawn that told of creation and loss. This is how we fight the rift, Vela said. We do not erase pain. We hold it gently, so it does not turn to fear. Lily understood. Then it was not about being strong, it was about being together. When she returned to camp at dawn, she gathered everyone, not just the science team, but cooks, engineers, medics, pilots. She asked them to sit in a circle under the open sky. For the next hour, she did not speak of aliens or rifts or danger. She asked them to share one memory that made them feel human. A first kiss, a home-cooked meal, a time someone helped them. When they were lost, at first they were awkward, hesitant, but then the comms officer spoke of her grandmother's hands kneading bread. The engineer talked about fixing his daughter's bike. The medic remembered holding a stranger's hand during a storm. Tears were shed, laughter rose, and for the first time in weeks, the camp felt warm high above. Vela watched and smiled, the first true smile in centuries. The next day, Earth Command sent another message, urgent and sharp: evacuate immediately, rift activity detected near Mars orbit. Panic spread through the camp. But Lily stood in the center, calm. As a stone in a river, she called everyone together again. This time she spoke of the Ziran way of facing fear, not by running, but by remembering who they were. We are not just soldiers or scientists. She said, we are people who love, who hurt, who hope. If we leave now, we take only fear with us, but if we stay and share our light even for one more day, we give Earth a chance to remember. Hale looked at his crew, saw the change in their eyes, the way they stood closer, the way they listened. Not just to orders, but to each other. He made his decision. We stay. That night, the rift reached the outer edge of the solar system. Mars went silent, then Jupiter's moons, then the asteroid belt stations one by one. The lights of human presence winked, out not with violence but with stillness, on Zira 7. The humans gathered again. This time they sang not one song but many in different languages, different tones yet somehow harmonizing under the twin moons. And then it happened, a pulse not of energy, but of presence washed over the planet, soft and deep like a breath held too long, and finally released the rift. Touched Zira 7 and found not isolation but connection, not fear but shared memory. It recoiled. On Mars the lights flickered back on. A voice crackled over comms, hello, is anyone there? We forgot. But now we remember. Back on Earth, people woke from a strange dream of emptiness and reached for their loved ones without knowing why. In the desert, Lily turned to Vela, tears in her eyes. Did we do it? You reminded them how to be human, Vela said. That is all anyone ever needs. The obsidian ship remained in orbit, not as a threat but as a promise the Zyran would stay not to rule but to walk beside them through the dark. And Lily Carter, the quiet botanist who once saved a sunflower, now stood at the edge of a new age, not as a hero but as a gardener, planting seeds of remembrance in the soil of a frightened world, knowing that even the smallest act of care could bloom into something that saved them all. Years had passed, and the town that once clung to the edge of a desert crater now spread across the valley, like a living tapestry of light and sound. The buildings were not uniform. Some curved like Zyran shells. Others stood straight, like earth. Homes and others spiraled like Kale song towers, but all were connected by gardens, walkways, and open spaces where anyone could sit and speak or simply be together. Lily walked these paths every morning, her steps slow but sure, her hair now fully silver, her hands lined with time but still gentle as they brushed leaves or held a child's hand. She was no longer called botanist or ambassador, or even the chosen one. People simply called her Lily, and that was enough. Vela walked beside her most days, her amber skin now marked with fine silver lines, the Zyran sign of deep wisdom. She no longer wore royal robes but simple cloth dyed with flower pigments. She taught the young ones not just Zyran history but how to listen to silence, how to find meaning in stillness. The rift was gone, not destroyed, but dissolved like mist under morning sun. It had no place where memory was tended like a garden, where stories were shared like bread, where a stranger's sorrow was met with a cup of tea. Not suspicion, yet peace was not the absence of challenge but the presence of care. One morning a distress signal came not from the void but from Earth. A strange sickness had appeared, not of the body but of the mind. People forgot names, faces, promises. They stared at loved ones as if seeing ghosts. The same emptiness that once came from the rift now rose from within. Lily felt it in her bones. Before the message even arrived, a cold hollowness in the bond she shared with Vela and others. It is happening. Again she whispered. Not the rift, Vela said, but something like it, born from too much noise, too much speed, too little rest. They gathered the council not in a grand hall but under the great crystal tree at the center of town. Beings from a dozen worlds sat on woven mats or floating cushions or bare earth. They did not argue, they listened. A Kale elder spoke first. Our people once drowned in data until we forgot how to feel. We healed by returning to the soil, to the slow songs. A human medic added. We gave everyone everything: fast food, fast news, fast lives, but no time to breathe. Lily looked at them all, then at the hope flower now grown into a small tree, its branches heavy with glowing blossoms, each one holding a memory, a moment of connection. Do not need to send ships or cures. She said we need to send reminders, so they prepared not weapons but gifts. They packed seeds that bloomed with kindness. They wove cloths that hummed with lullabies. They recorded voices not of leaders, but of grandparents. Telling old tales, they filled small stones with the sound of children laughing under twin moons. And Lily added one more thing, a single dried sunflower from her childhood, its petals brittle but still golden. The fleet that left Zyra 7 was unlike any before it. No warships, no shields, just open vessels carrying light instead of fire. Lily did not go. She was too old for long space travel, but she stood on the ridge watching them rise into the sky. Her hand in Vela's. You should have gone, Vela said softly. My work is here, Lily replied. Someone must keep the garden growing while others carry its seeds on earth. The sickness spread fast. Cities grew quiet. Not from plague, but from distance. People walked past each other, eyes down, hands in pockets, hearts closed. Then the gifts arrived. A child in Tokyo found a seed in her lunchbox, planted it, and watched it bloom into a flower that glowed when she sang to it. A man in Nairobi opened a cloth and heard his grandmother's voice singing a lullaby he had not heard since he was 5. He wept and called his daughter in a small town in Arizona. Lily's brother found a package on his porch inside a dried sunflower and a note in his sister's handwriting. Remember to look up slowly. The fog lifted, not all at once but person by person. Heart by heart back on Zyra 7. Lily tended the garden with new helpers, young ones born of mixed worlds. Their skin shimmering with hints of amber or silver, their voices blending earth songs with Zyran hums. They asked her questions not about war or power, but about why flowers turn toward the sun or how to comfort a friend who misses home. she answered with stories, not facts, one evening. As the twin moons rose high, she sat with Vela on their favorite dune, the town below glowing like a cluster of fireflies. Do you think they will remember this time? Lily asked. Vela leaned her head on Lily's shoulder as she often did now. We do not control memory. Lily, we only make space for it to return. Lily smiled and closed her eyes. She could feel the pulse of the valley, the breath of the crystal trees, the laughter of children, the quiet hum of the hope tree. Its roots deep in both worlds. She thought of her first days here alone and afraid. Now she was surrounded, not just by friends but by family of every shape and origina. A young Zyran human girl named Maya ran up the dune. Her feet bare, her hair braided with glowing vines. She held out a small pot inside a new hybrid seedling, its leaves edged with gold. And violet for you, she said shyly. Lily took it gently and placed it beside her on the sand. Thank you. Maya sat between them and pointed to the stars. Look, the travelers are sending light back far in the sky. Tiny pulses flickered. Not signals, but thank. Use not data, but love. Vela took Lily's hand and Maya took the other, and they sat in silence, watching the stars breathe. Time passed as it always does, quietly and without warning. One morning, Lily did not wake. They found her in her garden as she would have wanted, one hand in the soil, the other resting on the trunk of the hope tree. Her face peaceful, her smile soft. Vela came and knelt beside her. She did not cry. Not yet. She placed her forehead to Lily's and let the bond flow one last time, not of words but of gratitude, of shared sunrises, of quiet strength, of a life that changed everything by simply caring. They buried her, not in earth or Zyran crystal, but beneath the hope tree, its roots wrapping around her like gentle arms, and they did not build a statue or name a ship after her. They did something far more lasting. They told her story, not as legend, but as lesson to every child. They said once there was a woman who loved flowers more than fame, who listened more than she spoke, who believed that kindness was the strongest force in the universe, and she was right. Vela became the keeper of that story. She walked the garden every morning just as Lily once did. She taught the young ones how to plant, how to wait, how to hold space for sorrow and joy. And when new travelers came from distant stars, lost and afraid, they were not met with questions of origin or purpose. They were given a seed, a cup of tea, and a place to sit under the hope. Tree years turned to decades, and the tree grew tall, its branches wide enough to shade the whole town, its blossoms glowing brighter with every act of kindness beneath it. On Earth and Mars and 100 other worlds, people still planted the seeds sent from Zera 7. And when the flowers bloomed, they remembered not just Lily but what she stood for, that no one is too small to change the world. That love is not weakness but the deepest kind of strength. Vela grew older too, her step slower, her voice softer, but her eyes still held galaxies, and in them always the reflection of a quiet woman with dirt on her hands and hope in her heart. One night under the twin moons, she sat beneath the tree. Her time near its end, Maya, now grown with children of her own, sat beside her. Will you miss her? Maya asked. Every day, Vela whispered. But she is not gone as long as we remember, as long as we care, as long as we plant seeds in faith. She lives. Maya took her hand, and together they watched the stars. And somewhere in the quiet, between heartbeats, Lily's voice still whispered, not in words but in the rustle of leaves, in the warmth of shared bread, in the light of 1,000 blooming flowers across 1,000 worlds. The end. Months had passed since the first seed was planted, and Zera 7 was no longer a desert of silence but a garden of voices. Human and Zeran children ran through fields of silver grass, laughing in a mix of English and the soft clicks of Zeran tongue. They played games that had no name but needed no rules, just joy. Lily watched from the edge of the new greenhouse, her hands resting on the warm glass. She had helped build it with Ramos and 2 Zeran builders, using earth steel and Zeran crystal that breathed with the sun inside. Rare hybrids grew flowers that bloomed in colors unseen on any world, their petals shifting with the mood of those nearby, calm blue for peace, soft gold for joy, deep violet for sorrow. Vela stood beside her. Not as a princess now, but as a teacher. She wore simple robes the color of dawn, and her hair no longer glowed with royal light, but with the quiet warmth of someone who had finally rested. They are learning faster than we did, Vela said, nodding toward the children. Because they were not taught to fear difference, Lily replied. They see a Zyran child and think friend. Not alien, it was true. The old walls had crumbled. Not with force, but with time, with shared meals, with scraped knees, bandaged by both. Human medics and Zyran healers who used light instead of thread, but both with gentle hands. Yet not all was calm in the far rim of the galaxy. The last of the hollow fleets gathered not to attack, but to watch. They hovered in the dark, like lost birds, unsure if the nest still welcomed them. Earth Command still sent wary messages, but fewer now, their tone softer. Less certain. More curious, Lily received a personal message one morning from her mother back in Arizona. The video showed her mom sitting on the porch. Roses blooming behind her. I saw the news, honey. They say you are growing flowers that sing. Is that true? Lily smiled and recorded her reply. Yes, Mama. And they remember things too. Like your voice when you read to me as a kid, he sent it. With a small seed wrapped in soft cloth, a hybrid sunflower that would bloom gold by day and glow faintly at night. Meanwhile, deep in the heart of the Zyran ship, which now rested openly in the valley, not hidden, but honored, the elders held council. They were old beings, their skin like cracked stone, their eyes dim with centuries of grief. One spoke, his voice like dry leaves. We have given much, but our numbers do not grow. We fade even as the humans multiply. Vela listened, then stood, not with anger but with sorrow. We do not fade because we are weak. She said we fade because we forgot how to hope, and Lily reminded us. The elder bowed his head. But what of our future? Our future is not in numbers alone, Vela said. It is in what we pass on. That night Lily sat with Vela under the twin moons, the desert cool and quiet around them. They are afraid their people will end. Lily said softly, all things end. Vela replied, but not all things disappear. A song lives as long as someone sings it. A story lives as long as someone tells it. We do not need to last forever. We only need to matter while we are here. Lily reached into her pocket and pulled out a small glowing stone, the same kind Vela had once given her. But this one pulsed with a new rhythm. Inside it she had stored memories not just of Earth, but of Zyra, of the first shared meal, of the children's laughter, of the moment. The hollow ships turned from ghosts to guests. I made one for you, she said. Vela took it and held it to her chest, her eyes closing as the memories flowed into her. When she opened them again, they shone with tears, not of sadness but of fullness. You have given us back our voice, she whispered. No, Lily said, you gave me the courage to use mine. The next morning a new ship arrived, not Zyran, not human, but something else, small. Sleek silver with no weapons, only a single open hatch. It drifted down, gently landing near the greenhouse. Everyone gathered, but no one reached for weapons. A figure stepped out, short, slender, with skin like pale bark and eyes like liquid amber. They wore no uniform, only woven cloth covered in symbols that shifted as they moved. They did not speak, but raised a hand, palm open. Lily stepped forward alone. Vela started to follow, but Hale put a hand on her arm, led her. Lily stopped a few feet away and did the same, raised her palm open. The stranger touched their chest, then pointed to Lily, then to the ground between them. Lily understood they were saying, we are here, we see you. We wish to stand with you. She nodded and pointed to the greenhouse, then to the children playing nearby. The stranger's eyes softened and they followed her. Inside the greenhouse, the air hummed with life. The hybrid flowers turned toward the visitor as if sensing kindness. The stranger knelt and touched a vine that curled gently around their finger. A soft chime rang through the air. This is Kale, they said. Finally, their voice like wind through reeds. We are the keepers of the third silence. The third silence, Lily asked. The first silence was before stars. The second was the rift. The third is the space between fear and trust. They looked at her. We have watched you cross it. You are not alone, Kale said. Others come from the dark, not to fight but to learn, and so it began again, not with war but with welcome. More ships came over the next weeks, each bearing beings from worlds long thought, lost or silent. They did not speak the same language, but they understood the language of shared bread, of open hands, of sitting together in quiet. Lily became a bridge not by title but by habit. She learned to listen, not just to words but to the spaces between them. She taught the newcomers how to plant, how to wait, how to care for something that could not thank them. In return, Vela worked beside her, translating not just speech but feeling, showing how a Zyran lullaby carried the same comfort as a human hug. The camp grew into a village, then a town, not built of stone or steel, but of trust. Earth sent not soldiers, now but teachers, artists, gardeners, people who carried seeds instead of guns. On day, Lily stood at the edge of the crater again, the same place where it all began. The wind tugged at her hair, now streaked with silver. Not from age, but from the bond she shared with Vela and the others. Vela joined her, holding 2 cups of warm tea made from Zyran leaves and earth mint. You ever miss it? Lily asked. The quiet life, just dirt and seeds and no galaxies to save. Vela smiled. I miss nothing, because this is still dirt and seeds and care. You just gave it a bigger garden. Lily laughed and sipped her tea. Below them the town buzzed with life. A human child showed a Kale elder how to braid grass. A Zyran youth taught earth engineers how to shape light into tools without wires. Music rose from every corner. Not one song but many, weaving together like roots beneath the soil. The rift still existed far out in the void, but it no longer grew. It shrank, not because it was defeated, but because it was forgotten. Forgotten in the face of too much connection, too much love, too many hands reaching out in the dark. Lily thought of her mother's roses, her brother's laugh, her students back home. She thought of the sunflower that bloomed against all odds, and how that small act had somehow led here to this moment, to this world where difference was not danger but gift. Vela touched her arm gently. Look in the horizon. A new ship descended, not dark, not silent, but bright with color, its hull painted. With symbols of peace from a dozen worlds, it landed softly, and from it stepped beings of every shape and shade. They did not march. They walked slowly, looking around with wonder. Lily stood and walked toward them, not as a hero, not as a chosen one, but as a gardener, as a friend. She raised her hand. Palm open, they raised theirs. And in that simple gesture, the future took root again. Not in grand declarations, but in quiet trust. Back in the greenhouse, the hope flower bloomed fully for the first time, its petals unfolding to reveal a core that pulsed with soft light. Not Zyran, not human, but something new. Something shared. Lily placed a hand on its stem and felt it hum with the same rhythm as her own heart. She knew then that the story was not ending. It was only beginning, and every person who chose kindness over fear, every hand that reached out in the dark, every seed planted in faith was a line in that story, and she would keep writing it one quiet day at a time.